back to the studio. Today I want to paint this stairway right here through a garden, to a garden maybe. I'm going to do a version of it. I don't think I want to try to make it exactly like that, but I like this picture. I like that it's got a lot of color to it. But before we even get started with a sketch, I want to put a coat of paint. I want to make this white canvas a little more neutral so I can see these colors a little bit better. And then I'll put my sketch on here. So let me show you what that color is going to be. I'm going to start off with a gray, and for that I've got ultramarine blue and burnt umber and some white gesso. And this blue and burnt umber, when you mix those together, you get something close to black. And then if I bring in some of my gesso, you can see that goes to a pretty neutral gray. I like that it's a little bit towards the blue side instead of towards the brown side. I think I'll try to keep it that way and make a little bit more. I'm going to need enough to cover the whole canvas. You see that got a little bit more gray. I'm going to put a little more blue in it, get it a little more towards the blue-gray side. All right, and that's pretty rich and creamy. I don't have a whole lot of water in this, but I'm going to just put one solid coat of that on the canvas. Now, I don't always do this. Sometimes with a landscape, I'll use a color that's kind of my background color or my atmosphere color, sometimes a light blue or something like that. But since this photo has a lot more, has a lot less depth, it's not a regular landscape. It's kind of flat. It doesn't go very deep, and it's got a lot of color to it. I'll use this neutral gray to let me see my colors a little better, and it'll just be a good starting point to get rid of some of that stark white. Just that quick. I don't care about brush strokes. I don't really care about anything. Kind of trying to rub the paint down into the canvas really good and then maybe smooth it out a little. Every inch of this is covered up, so we're going to go with that. And I'll go ahead and dry that, and then I'm going to put my sketch on here, just a rough sketch, and I'll show you from there. Okay, I've sketched in just the stairs mostly, and I get asked this a lot. You know, a lot of people that are beginners and don't necessarily draw and don't know how to draw, and are intimidated by that. How do you get a sketch from a photo? I got a photo I want to paint. How do I sketch it? How do I get it onto the canvas? There's a lot of ways to do that. I don't believe there's a right or wrong way, whatever you're comfortable with. I want to show you this. This is the sketch that I used, and I will put this in the description. If you want to paint along with this, I'll make this sketch available for download. This sketch was actually done by AI. It was Gemini. I took the picture and I just drug it into Gemini and said, make me a simple sketch that can be used to make a painting, and it gave me this, which is perfect. I could have, done that on my own. I could have printed it full size and traced it with transfer paper, or I could have just sketched it by hand, and this took like 2 seconds. So I think any tool that you can use that works and that you're comfortable using, go for it. Let me know what you think about that. Some people are scared to death of AI. It's going to kill art, Right now, at least, I think it's a pretty good tool that you can use to make you better. So we'll start with that. Now this picture, let me talk about this for a second. This was the photo. There's a lot going on here, and I'm not going to try to make it exactly like the photo. That's way too much detail. I'm going to be a little more impressionistic with it. And first thing I want to do is paint in mainly the values, some of the colors, but mainly the values, the darks and the lights. So it's really dark up here, really dark on some of those stairs. I used Photoshop. I don't know if you can tell the difference between this picture or not. I used Photoshop and ran it through a little bit of a filter to kind of separate the colors, to let me see where the values are a little more. And so I'm going to use this to kind of tell where to put my big dark areas, where to put kind of light areas. And to start with, I'm just going to block in big sections of light and dark with color. And I'll show you what that looks like. So this is a little different approach. Normally, if you do a landscape, we would start, with the sky or way in the back. We'd start with the furthest away trees and then kind of work our way in layers forward. But doing it this way, with a picture like this that doesn't have a whole lot of depth, we want to get the big values in there first. So let's start there. Let's talk about these colors. All right, the only color that I've added is this cadmium yellow light. Let's start with this, and we're going to later on, we're going to need some reds and some things with the flowers and maybe some other, a different blue to get those bright, vibrant greens. But for now, this blocking in stage, I just want basic shades with the values. So we're going to talk about a couple different values. Our darkest value, like we said, ultramarine blue and burnt umber will give us almost a black. And I say almost a black, it's not pure black. If I were to take black, Mars black or carbon black and put it next to this, it'd be much darker. But this is about as black as I want to get in my picture, because I don't like to go full black, except maybe at the very end with some details. It gives you a little more room to add a little darker if you need to later. So that's going to be my darkest color. As we go forward, you can put a little bit of yellow in it, and you see how it turns green. This gives us a good neutral dark green. Okay, going forward from that, a little more yellow, touch of gesso, touch of white will give you an even lighter sort of mid-green. Each step of the way, add a little bit more yellow, and that will give us brighter greens as we go. And then, as needed, a little bit of gesso as well. If you want to get a little bit more vibrant with that green, go with a little bit more blue. You can see you can get a slightly different vibrant green. We're going to use all of these colors, just kind of going to look at it and see what it needs, where it needs it. But you can get all of your shades of green that we need for this phase anyway from these three colors: ultramarine blue, burnt umber, and cad yellow light. Okay, I'm going to start with my darkest areas first, just because I don't really have a reason for that. You could start with the light areas, but this is a number 8 flat brush, something about a ½ inch or so, and I want to use a little bit, a bigger brush, because I don't want to put any detail in this. This is just the big shapes. I don't care that it's not perfectly smooth. You may get some brush strokes here and there. That's okay. It's all going to be textured and colored and all that stuff. This is underpainting. It's not super important how beautiful it is. Really focusing on getting the values. And by value, I mean the darks and lights. I'm going to get all the darks and lights kind of in place where they're going to be. This top area is the furthest away. It's the top of the stairs. It's kind of dark through there. Don't leave any real hard brush strokes that I can't cover up. Now coming down the stairs, a lot of those stairs are dark. Some sections like this one, almost black. Don't worry too much about the exact, edges of it. This is a big brush. We're going to have a chance to clean that up later. This one. A lot of these front edges of the stairs are going to be pretty dark because they're in shadow. That element of this painting, it's got some, what we would call rhythm to it. Kind of repeating patterns. Those are good to have in your composition. It's kind of serves as a relaxation thing to your brain. We like to see things that are laid out in order and have a kind of pattern to them sometimes. And when that's up against the chaotic stuff around it, the nature around it, that makes a good effect. All right, so this one. Basically, it's just the front-facing stairs here. Kind of may have gotten that one wrong. That looks like that sketch didn't get exactly where it needed to be. Let me start at the top and see if I can see these a little better. These up here are all pretty dark. Again, all of this is going to be painted over, so just getting it in there. Yeah. Yeah, I think it was this one. I'll have to fix that later. Those two steps, there's kind of a long step there. Kind of blends in with that one. I'll straighten that out later. Okay, then other places where it looks really dark. Down here, and I've got some kind of little structure down there, some stacks of stones down there. I'll have to trace that back in, but it gets pretty dark down here. Let me get some more paint to make a little more. Pretty dark in this area. Some spots through here where there's dark. Right in there is pretty dark. It's a pretty good area right through here. And I'm just looking at my photo and just kind of making a decision. Where's it dark? Where's it light? Looking for the big areas, and you can kind of blur your eyes, squint your eyes, and look at it blurry, and find those dark spots. Okay, a little bit more here, and that staircase is pretty dark all the way down. More up into there. All right, so now I'm going to go to the next tone in, a little bit of yellow in that black. Gives me my darkest green. A lot of that is in here. And I don't care that this is wet and it's blending a little as I touch it, it doesn't matter. This is just to get something on the canvas. Over here is pretty dark. This is just going to look like a mess. Just got to come to terms with that. All up to all the way up here, really. A couple of brighter spots that I'll leave, but okay. A lot of light there in the middle, so I'll leave some of that. And my flowers, like I said, my flowers and stuff around are not going to be exactly like those. It'll be, close enough, but the thing about paint from a reference photo, as long as you don't show it to people, they don't know what it was. You can do whatever you want with it. All right, I'm going to lighten up a little more. This is going to give me a little lighter shade that's going to be kind of in here. And this is kind of a boring phase to watch because you're not really doing anything too beautiful, but it'll make a big difference as you paint forward, rather than trying to just start with a white canvas and just start putting paint on. Like that. We'll go a little lighter. The really brighter spots are in here. On this side. Where the sun's coming across there, catching that pretty good. A couple spots of that here. And we're pretty bright down this side as well. Just kind of coming through there. It's got a little bit of a light tan color in there too. I'll get some of that. Not trying to make smooth brush strokes. If I can give it a little texture at this point, that'll help me later when I start putting the leaves and stuff in. So this, I'm gonna put a little more blue in that. Try to get some of that more vibrant green. Some of this down here has a little bit of that more vibrant color. I'm covering up my sketch there, but like I said, I got that sketch and I've got transfer paper. I can sketch it on there as many times as I need to. What's left, there's a little bit of that green, kind of lighter stuff up in here. What's left on the stairs, I've got some kind of tan. For that, I'm going to make a gray with my blue and brown. And then add some gesso to it and let it go a little bit towards the brown side. This time, it's more of a brownish gray. And if it needs to, just a touch of yellow. It gives me kind of a neutral tan. That's going to be more like on the surface here. Where the sun comes across these stairs. There's some of that here. There's a little bit on the front here. Some real thin areas here. It goes a little darker. Spots. Okay, and some of that dark tan was kind of over here as well. I don't know if that's just the exposed ground or leaves or what, but it had a little bit of that color in my, and I'm looking at my Photoshop version. I'll put that one on there too. It's just so y'all can see it. The filtered version that has colors kind of separated. It helps me to kind of see it a little more abstract. All right, and what was left, let me get back to my greens. I had this down here kind of has some of that greenish gray to it. This is concrete, or the steps, whatever the steps are made out of there. All right, and that last little bit was kind of a mid-tone, mid-dark green. I just didn't get that in to begin with. Okay. Now, this shouldn't take more than just, 10 minutes or so, and you just want to get every inch of white, or gray in this case, covered up. And then that gives us our underpainting. We can start from there, and from this point, I'm going to use my reference some, but I'm going to kind of go on my own and figure out what I want to do. I know there's some lighter stuff up in there. This will give me just a starting point. Just a rough starting point. So I'm going to get that dry, and then we'll, I may put a little bit more. I don't know if I want to sketch anything else to it. I think I'll just go with what I have, and we'll just start putting sections of it in. Let me get it dried off first. All right, so it's pretty dark. Now you can't really tell it very good in the video. This is that top part, the lighting is making that look lighter than it is, but we'll have to go with that. I'm going to start back there. In the photo, there was a little hint of some little fence or something back there, but there's not a whole lot of it, so I'm just going to go with my imagination. And I think what happens is these stairs go up and then go through a gate into another part of a garden or something. So I like the idea of the little picket fence up there. So I'm going to start with this. This is a gray. Let me see if it's dark enough. I'm just going to put some. Yeah, I don't want white. I mean, this is obviously going to be a little white picket fence. But if I put white up here, it would look very, very strange. That's way back in the back, off in the shadows. And I think what I want to do is just put these in roughly. Not a perfect thing. This is whatever I want it to be at this point. Just going to put some stripes back here. Represent a little bit of a fence with a gate in the middle of it. I'm going to paint over some of this because I have a lot of brush and stuff growing in front of it and behind it. That's why I'm going to go ahead and put it in first. And it's kind of going to get grown in a little bit. Okay, a little bit of something back there. Maybe even has the areas in between where you can see where it joins. This reference photo is one that came from a Facebook group. There's a lot of Facebook groups out there that are specifically reference photos for artists. And it's just people that take pictures in their yard or whatever, and they post them. Some of them are professional looking photographs. Some of them are not very good. You kind of filter through and find some that you like, but they're free to use. They don't require any licensing or anything, any copyright. And they, you can, but I like to take those and just start there and make it my own. I'm going to let that dry. I'll dry that real quick with blow dryer, and then I'll put some brush in front of it. All right, it's ready to dry. Everything back there is going to be really dark. I'm going to start with this fan brush. This is a soft fan brush. It's one that I've had for a while that's kind of chewed up a little bit, which lets the bristles separate really good. It works really good for making leaves, foliage. I'm going to go back to my dark green, and I won't show you really how to make all these colors because we made them to begin with. They're the same variations of the same colors. Still just using those same three basic colors: burnt umber, ultramarine blue, and light yellow, and then the white gesso. So if you start by making a black and then add a little yellow to it, you get that really dark green. I just barely want this to show up. All right, back here, and I'm just thinking about just kind of texture, not really exact leaves. This is just stuff in the background back there. Okay, I'll go ahead and bring that over here some. We'll put some of it on top of this fence a little bit, and the bottom part mostly. Yeah. Maybe a little bit lighter down in the front of it. Just kind of come across with a little light. This is all the stuff that's just really far away. Now there's some, let's put maybe some mid-green in here. That's too light. Something like that. Some little trees going on back there. That may be in front of this fence area. It's always good in a composition to give your viewer somewhere for their eye to travel to. So it's going to travel up these stairs, it's going to go through that fence, and then just whatever's beyond there. So you want your viewer to go through the painting, not off of it, not off to the side of it. You want to go through the middle of it. It's a good way to start anyway. Go back to my liner and some dark let's say some kind of dark greenish gray, just something a little different than what the background is. We'll put a couple of little tree trunks or sort of indications of tree trunks back in there. Maybe there's a couple of little trees back here. Kind of helps indicate that that's a little further away. Maybe even some back in here. I don't like how I got a really light spot right there in the gate. I'm going to darken that up a little too while I'm in here with this dark. And just texture. Not really painting anything there. Had to make some more paint real quick. Yeah, don't really want to paint anything in there. Just want a dark area. Let that dark come out this way a little bit where my path is going to be. I like the idea of having this kind of covered a little bit. This fence kind of have a little bit in front of it. Some more greenery out here. It got a little brown in it, that's okay. That's good. May come back and do a little highlighting here and there just to bring some of that out. Actually, let's do this. I know how to do that. I'm going to put, while I got that dark, maybe come back and put a little dark in between some of this just to clean it up a little bit. Kind of make them all the same height too. That's good enough. It's too far away. There's not a whole lot to it. I know you can't really see that good. I wish that glare would not be there, but I don't know how to make it. If I could block the shadow a little bit. But that part far away, not super important. One thing I will do with my, while I got this number 1 liner brush, get some of that lighter and go ahead and put some closer up tree that's kind of hanging over that area, maybe just to give them a little contrast here. These are just spots, lots of little spots. Got a pretty good bit of water in the paint, just kind of dancing around on here, getting those spots in here. And as I get further back, I'll let them run together a little bit more. One trick is you can kind of take your finger and tap around on them and kind of runs them together. So if I just put a few dots on, then take my finger and kind of tap around on them, it kind of pushes them around. Kind of pick one up and move it from place to place. But I'm going to leave the ones out towards the front nice and clean. And then put a couple more clean ones in there. So that's kind of maybe a closer foreground tree that's kind of leaning over that area. Just want to get a little contrast there, a little light on top of the dark. And that's what this is going to be about all the way down. It's going to be about just putting some light on dark, dark on light textures here and there. And then whatever detail we do will be kind of right in the heart of the painting at the end. Okay, I made a little bit of an adjustment to the camera so you can see that a little bit better. We get a little bit lighter shade here, I think, and get some of these tree trunks in here a little bit lighter. Just kind of a highlight on them. Just gonna put them on and smear them here and there. Doesn't have to be all of them, just want a few. I'm gonna indicate a few little tree trunks back there. And now that it's kind of drying, I can see that my dark stuff back here has kind of disappeared. Go a little lighter with that. Okay, I don't want it to be too much. Just a little something back there. Okay, I think that'll work better. All right. Okay, that's good for that. So coming forward, I'm just going to let that dry on its own. It may come back and forth. I think I do want to put a little more prominent, just tree right up in the front there. Coming forward, I'm just going to layer in some kind of leaf texture as a background that kind of is close to my underpainting color. So like I get this, yeah, that's kind of light, but just in areas where it's light, give that a little bit of a, texture. Just going to be done in layers. Everything's going to be in layers. Find an area where I have some of that light stuff and just kind of texture it. This is a lot of illusion, you're trying to paint the illusion of detail. Make it look like you painted a whole bunch of individual leaves and grasses and trees and stuff. I'm just letting this brush separate like that and just using the edges of it and letting that give me some stuff. As I come down, those leaves are going to get a little broader. They're going to get a little bit bigger. And I will spend some time here making them more individual and that. This is not a finished thing. We're just another layer. Just another layer. When you do things quickly like this, it'll give you some stuff you didn't really plan for. You throw something in there and you'll see something you like. Oh, okay, I think I'll keep that. And you can cover the parts you don't like and keep the parts you do like. So already that's helping a lot. So I'll do the same thing with a little darker shade of that. Except this time, I'm going on to the darkest areas and using my kind of mid-tone color to give texture there on the dark areas. I don't want to lose all my dark. There's some places where I want to keep it really dark. But this is just about giving some texture. So you don't have to paint each one of these little bushes or plants individually by doing it this way. If you put 2 or 3 leaves in there, it looks like a whole plant. All this texture behind there helps it create that illusion. All right, I think I like that. And this is still just underpainting, really. That background is a little more detailed, but coming forward, this is still pretty much underpainting. Now, in the photo, there are a few rocks. You know, that one there. There's a few that are in here, but I may want to do a few more of those. There's a few rocks that kind of up the path here that are just kind of sitting there off to the side of the stairs. But rocks are a good way to represent light. They're a good way to let the light, you can really put directional light on rocks because they have different surfaces facing different areas. And when your light's coming from one direction, like in this case, it's going to be coming across from the upper left, it gives you an opportunity to put some shadows and some light and really create that, really emphasize where the light's coming from. I think I'll put a little more rocks on the side here. Maybe some laying up in there. Now with those kind of implied there, I'll come back with my lighter area. And I'm just using a big brush. These can be any shape, really. They would have been maybe put there by somebody, so they can be a little bit uniform. This larger one back here has a couple surfaces to it. I'll spend a little more time on those in the detail, but I want to have, grasses and things growing up through them too. All right, let me hit that with a blow dryer real quick. All right, now while I'm in that rock gray color, I think I will put some of this, maybe it's a little darker. A little darker for this foreground. There is, in the photo, there's a little pillar of stacked stone, like a little planter or something made out of stacked stone right here. That kind of at the base of the stairs. I think I'll put some of that in. Just start indicating it a little bit here and there. And it doesn't look like it was professionally made. It looks like somebody just literally stacked up some flat rocks there and used it as a planter. Kind of like it though. The dark sides of it, a little more in shadow, and it's got a lot of plants growing on the top of it. Get that dark even darker. Yeah, got a little blue in it, but that's okay. And there's some here too, some indication of it. Not as much really showing over here. All right, I'll let that be what it can be for now. I like doing stuff like this because you can do one little section and then come back and do some more to it later and kind of play with it here and there. Doesn't have to all be perfect. Now, one thing I like to do at this stage with this type of painting, where you're starting with a mess and kind of cleaning it up, and you just want a couple times during the painting, you just want to stop, step back from it, take a look, and ask yourself what's working, what looks really good so far. Have I got any kind of little things that have happened by accident that are just good that I want to keep? And is there anything that looks really bad that I definitely need to cover up? And so looking at it, I know I like this. Ended up with a little bright spot right there. And I know the light's coming across here, so that's going to catch some light. I like that really bright spot that I accidentally created right there. So far, the darkness of this is looking good. The other thing that stands out to me is this really bright step here, catching a lot of light, and this light that's developing down here, it looks like a shadow. And that was kind of accidental. I was using that big brush. I'm going to keep that because that looks good. In order to make that stay looking good, I need to keep this nice and dark. That contrast right there between this really bright step and that dark step, the dark shadow of it, that is really working right now for me. I'm going to obviously dirty it up and make it look more like concrete, and it's going to be covered in a little bit, but I want to make sure I don't lose the elements of, the light to dark, and then my little shadow down here, and my bright stuff here. So each, just every once in a while, you want to take an evaluation like that. Something that looks weird so far to me is, my little rocks I just put in because they're not really embedded yet. I'm going to have to do a lot of foreground, big flowers and stuff kind of in the foreground to push this part back a little. Right now this looks flat. Right here looks really flat. So that's one thing I'm going to have to work on. I think the next thing I really want to work on is the stairs themselves, because the growth is going to come in around them and I want them to kind of be done so everything else can kind of layer over top of them. So I'm going to spend a little time making those stairs a little cleaner. I'll start with kind of making some of that same brown, that tan color, which is just my blue and brown making gray, but I want to lean it a little bit towards the brown side and add some white to it. So it leans a little bit into the brown. And if I need to, I can put a touch of yellow. Let's see that real quick. Okay, so I've got this. This was my basic stair color. Okay. So I want to kind of clean these up just a little. They don't have to be perfect. Use that color and I'll make a lighter version of it next to it. That got a little too yellow. Okay. And this is my liner brush. This is a number one liner, and it holds a lot of paint, and I can do some pretty thin lines with it, but I want to get some really thin, cleaner lines. I may even go with a smaller. Let me just get some more water in that paint, maybe. Roll it to a point a little better. Get a little more detail on it. So the very front edges of these stairs has a tendency to catch more light in the photo anyway. These in here didn't really develop. Kind of got to put them in. Okay. So starting with the light, I'm just going to add a little light here and there to these. To some of these stairs. They don't all have light all over them. Some of them have darker spots, lighter spots, depending on what's around them. Just want to add some light and kind of blend it out here and there. Kind of creates some shadowing going across there. These are old, concrete, rustic looking steps. Again, down here, I don't want to lose my light, but I do want to kind of texture it a little bit. And give it a little bit of character. Pretty bright right in here. The same down here. I don't want to lose these bright spots. If anything, I want to kind of accentuate them. You notice too, I'm using my fingers a lot with this, and anytime especially when you're doing kind of random, wanting it to look random, look soft, you can use your fingers to kind of smear things around and soften things up. Those light spots are pretty important. Yeah. And then the same kind of thing, and I'll just go back and forth, the same kind of thing with the dark. I'll go back with a dark gray. That'll barely show up on that black, maybe. Put a little bit of color in it, little grays and browns and things in there. And it's just a matter of putting some, texture in there. Don't want to lose all my contrast for sure. Just kind of making these look more old and weathered. All right. That front edge here, pretty clean, pretty sharp edge on the front of that stair. I'll clean a few of these up. Yeah, that one got a little weird. That's the one that I painted in the wrong spot, I think, to begin with. It's all right though. Not a whole lot of detail on these back here. They're just don't want to have them look weird is all. Yeah. Now, come in with some of that green. If I can find some that's still active. Some green in the bottom of these, and where they have kind of grasses growing up between them or moss or whatever, kind of in the cracks of them. It's a good thing. Probably be a little darker down here, but there's a little bit of, I guess, moss maybe growing on there right at the base. Maybe not everyone, but just here and there. I like that. Some of these might even have, moss maybe on, making the whole stair look green in spots. That's a thing too. They're not the best maintained, stairs. Okay. I'm going to go with a little bit smaller liner brush. Let's see, let me find one here. This is an 03. It's a 3.0. Yeah, 3.0. A little smaller. I just want to do some detail work in this foreground. We'll do some more of this at the very end, but just some little stuff up here, like some little cracks and things that might be in some of these closer upstairs. Yeah, like that. Keeping that horizontal. And I do not want to lose all my bright right here, but I can add some color to it, and it'll still be okay. A little bit down here. Now you don't have to go crazy with this. We can do more at the end, but just in spots where you can see it. You wouldn't see it all the way up the stairs even. And just like you do some light, dark, you can come back and do some, lighter. Maybe some of these little surfaces catch light a little more. Might even use my fan brush to put some leaves and things down in the front. Let's go a little more brown, kind of brownish green. Yeah, just more like texture. I don't know if those are leaves or some kind of, growth down there, some kind of plant. Whatever. Yeah. And some of that is more brown too. Some of it could be kind of dead leaves. Yeah. We'll have, times to do this at the very end, to do some of this detail and it'll be easier to see where it needs to be, where you can put stuff, but I just wanted to have some of it there because if I cover some with my leaves and things, it'll at least have some detail left showing there. Okay. All right. While I have my smaller liner, I could do a little, I wanted to do a little work on these rocks up here. Some of them may have other surfaces that are showing. I'm a little too gray there. Let's see. So a lot of this I do want to cover up with the grasses and things, but I do want to establish kind of a shadow base underneath some of these rocks that I've put in. Like I said, it's a good opportunity to create some sunlight. Yeah, I'll work on those a little more. All right. Let's see, where can we go next? Well, I'm in those colors and those smaller brushes. Maybe we can straighten some of this up a little bit. This is those stacked stone planters that were down here. Some of that on there. Cover some of that blue up. That was a little too blue. We'll do some more of that later. All right. So now I got my stiff brushed fan brush, and I got some of that dark green. I'm going to try to work on this area here on the left side. I know I really want a bright area right in here. That it kind of looks like it might, where these rocks are, might kind of be a flatter surface up there. So I'm going to kind of just try to get some texture here. I'm not trying to paint individual grasses. Just want to kind of put some grass texture over here where it would be darker. I'm going to let that kind of come into my rocks a little bit here. I'm going to leave that area there to be light. Just kind of tapping this. This is just, with this brush, you can just tap, 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 and it'll do kind of the work for you. Kind of keep going until the paint runs out, and it'll kind of soften it a little. All right, while I'm in there, maybe do a little bit of that up here. Okay. Anywhere that there's a dark area that could use a little texture, not a bad idea to go ahead and do some of it. Okay. I think that's probably good. Now, well, let me get a little bit more on the bottom of these rocks. A little more prominent right in there. Kind of want to bury those a little bit down there. All right. Staying focused kind of on the left side for now. Now I'm going to go back to a lighter, much lighter. A lot of yellow, a little touch of white, kind of some of that green. See if I can get a little bit of a highlighted area here. Yeah, I like that. We use a lot of water, and when you put a lot of water in it, it helps the texture. It helps the tip of the brush kind of make a better, more fine line, but also when it dries, it won't be quite as extreme. So you can kind of not worry about getting too crazy with your colors, because it'll dry a little darker. It lets you kind of sneak up on it. If that makes sense. All right, this side over here, I'm not working on this side yet, but it's also bright. Go ahead and put some of that in there just to make sure it's nice and bright. Okay. All right. Now I've got some. I'm gonna go with my other fan brush. I'll try to put some I kind of want it to be like almost like ivy on this side growing on the ground, or just some little ground foliage. And I'm going to get a color that's in my blue, that's not quite, in my green, but a little bit more vibrant maybe. Not pure, that was straight yellow and blue. I'm going to put just a touch of the burnt umber in it, just a little bit to tone it down a little, but I want it a little bit brighter than what's under it. Kind of right in here, yeah. And we're just going to kind of put some, like I said, some ground ivy or something growing on the ground back here. It doesn't have to be too distinct, just some texture. The thing about doing something like this where there's so much going on, you don't have to do every leaf, every flower. You can kind of imply most of it, and at the last minute do just a few details, and it looks like you've spent a lot of time on detail. I'm going to have some lighter flowers and things in here too, so this is just going to be my ground underneath. Okay. Going a little bit bluer with that in the foreground. Let me see, I want to go a lot bluer with it, I think. Let's see what this looks like. See what that looks like up here. Yeah. A little different kind of plant, kind of right in here. This is going to have some flowers on it as well, some kind of pink flowers. Just a little type of, another type of ground flower here, ground plant. And I notice I started kind of at the top and coming down, so you're going to start in the back and work forward as much as you can. But as I mentioned with this painting, it's kind of, it's not two-dimensional, but it's not as, you know, not as deep as some of the others we've done. But you can still provide some of that depth by doing these darks in the front, lights, you know, by varying like that. Got it. Let's see, let's have some of this come here. Let's have some leaves. Kind of coming out in front of this. This is maybe a brush or a tree or something that's kind of overhanging. Just a little, kind of like the one above it. A little bit lighter too while I'm in that. Now, I said I was going to work on the other side. Now I've jumped over here. But that's okay. Kind of do what you can do. All right. I am going to go back to that other side. I'm going to hit this with the blow dryer real quick. I think that's good for my underneath stuff. Then I'm going to start putting some more like detail stuff on this left side, but I'm going to go ahead and do the blow dryer real quick. All right, so before I get into the really, you know, bright flowers and things on this side, since I want that bright stuff to look really bright, I'm going to need some dark under it. Some of these plants, this is just some black made from blue and brown, 50-50 burnt umber and ultramarine blue gives us a dark shade that's almost a black. Kind of go under some of this, create some shadows. Also down here, as I mentioned, I wanted this to kind of look like it has a, where it flattens off a little bit on that light spot. All right. Now this is going to be another plant down here. But by doing this dark, now when I put the light stuff on top of it, it'll really show up a lot better. Okay. I'm going to blow dry that one more time. So at this point, I'm kind of done with the, what you call the base of it, or the underpainting, or the you know, the texture type stuff. Got most everything in where I want it. Now I'm going to start adding some little detail stuff, or some smaller, more, you know, not really detailed, but kind of, you know, more defined areas. And you'll see how the rest of that kind of falls in line. We'll start with some gray. This is that black I made earlier with some gesso in it. This gives me a gray. I'm going to make white flowers. I want a bunch of little white flowers kind of up in this area. These are just kind of maybe little, almost wildflowers down on the ground. I don't know what they are. They maybe little clusters of white. Now this is gray. And actually, let me get it a little darker gray, because I can tell already that's going to be too light. I'm going to start with gray. And in my darker areas here, let's put some clusters of just little gray flowers. Trying to keep in mind that this ground here is flat. Try to make it, you know, make this look sort of flat. And the ones in the shadow are going to be kind of gray, and then when we get the ones in the sunlight, we'll do them more white. I don't want to do the whole thing. I'm just little patches of them here and there. This is just my liner brush. I could use any brush really, but this gives me a good, it holds a lot of paint. So it lets me kind of go for a while before I have to go back to the palette. These are just tiny little spots. My lighting is going crazy in here. There's a wind blowing outside and the limb is blowing in front of my window, so it's making a weird shadow, but maybe it won't be too bad. Put some of this up into these rocks too. And as I get closer to the front here, some of these up here will be a little bigger. But back here in the back, there'd be real small, especially little patches, you know, little small patches that kind of grow together like that. Okay. And I will do a few of the gray ones out here in the light area. But for the most part, this out here is going to be whiter. Let's go ahead and put a few over here in the dark too. Something like that. All right, so then I'm going to come back with white. And some of these that are out here in the light will be a lot whiter. If you do it right, they all look white. Somebody would have to point it out to you that some of them are gray and some of them are white. It just looks natural. Let's see, that's a little heavy, especially out here. Let's. Just a little here and there. We want to kind of cluster them up. I'm keeping the brush kind of flat because I want to make sure my dots are kind of oval shaped, flat. You know, I'm not the kind of person that would sit here and do one at a time, you know, like that. I'm, I guess, not patient enough to make it that detailed. I'm just going to do some. I think it looks better if you do it quick, honestly. A couple of light ones up in here that are catching some more light. Not a whole lot back there, though. Okay, let's get a few up in this side. Okay. I'm also going to use some light. This color is straight out of the tube. It's called light. I don't know. I've had this one for a while. I don't know if you can find this brand anymore. This is just bright yellow green. And actually, I've got it in a couple different. I've got a Liquitex Basics version of it, brilliant yellow green. It's a little brighter than what I can mix by making it with yellow and blue. It's almost got a little bit of a fluorescent glow to it. And I like using that sometimes in these really bright spots. Just for some green. Maybe even some of these up here, these leaves up here that would catch some sunlight. Could even put a little bit of that on my fan brush and kind of some of that in the grass here. Wouldn't look too bad either. That really bright area. Yeah, may come back and do some more of that later, but okay. Now, I think I'll do some pink. First, before I do that, I'm going to go back into this bright green. This is that green that I was using down here. It's still on my palette. It's some like purposeful plants on the side of the stairs here that kind of have some pink flowers on them in the picture. Just kind of throw those in here real quick. Looks like they were kind of planted there. Very loosely looking at this picture. I really not going by it that much. But it's just, there's a couple things on there that I like that I want to keep. So this is more of a black right here. I'm going to kind of put a shadow underneath some of this to tie that down just a little bit more. That's a little too much there. I think I'll have to dry that now before I put the flowers on there. Got a little magenta. This is the quinacridone magenta. Put a touch of white in it. And to make the shadow color for this pink flower that I'm going to make, because I want to put a dark down first and then I'll put the bright pink on top. And I'll do some of these up here, but also some in the foreground here. In order to get that shadow color, what you want to do is you want to mix in the opposite, or the color across the color wheel, the complementary color for it. So it would be, for magenta, it's going to be a shade of green. You know, red and green are basically across the color wheel from each other. So I used some of this bright green here and mixed it with some magenta and came up with this dark shade of dark pink here. I'll start there and try to get some of these flowers in here. And this is just the under side. Now I haven't painted anything but dots yet. I mean, these are just dots. Just blobs of paint. We're not really painting flowers exactly. And while I got that paint while I'm in there, I may as well come down here and do some of these down here. Now these are more like clustered together, it looks like, and I don't know what kind of, if these are like roses or what they are. But they're going to be just some flowers here. A few bigger ones, a few smaller ones. There's some out here that are kind of clustered. A couple of small ones maybe here and there. This is the under color, the shadow color of them. Okay. And we're going to have a few over here as well while I'm in that color. Not as much on this side. Did have a couple spots of them kind of up and down the stairs here, a little here and there. Okay. Now, before I put my lighter color on top of that, I do want that to be dry, so I'm going to go ahead and hit that with the blow dryer again. All right, so now this is magenta with just some gesso in it. And I'm just going to hit some of these. Don't want to hide all of my dark. Just want to add the light kind of on top of it here and there. See how that does? Kind of looks right. Same thing down here. Just want to kind of hit the high spots with it. But I haven't added a lot of detail. These are just dots. Haven't done anything too dramatic. Just did some dots here and there. And it already looks like there's a lot of, looks like I spent a lot of time on, make sure, detailing, and it's just really not the case. It doesn't take a lot. All right, let's see. I know I want to spend some time up front on these front two planters. But before I go to that, I think I want to fix these rocks a little bit, these smaller ones. I can see my dark is not dark enough on the bottom of those. I'm going to make up a little black. Staying in here with this script liner so I can get in the small spaces. Let's see if I can define these a little bit better in here. These really dark areas are needed to make your brighter areas look brighter. Just kind of coloring in between these. Down here. I'm going to take another brush in a minute and kind of soften some of these lines. But I know I want some of this darker. Just going to lay some paint on there, then I'll come back and smooth it around with my little flat brush maybe. Yeah. Just intensifying that just a little bit. Now, I also want to put some highlights on those rocks a little more, and on these steps as well. But that's why I wanted to have this dark be all it can be first. Yeah, that did make it a little more rich right there, I believe. This is one of the darker areas in the painting right here, so make sure I get it good and dark. Okay. All right. Kind of going to be nice and dark down here. Okay. I think that looks a little better. While I got my flat brush here, let's go ahead and make a little bit of bright for that as well. I think we had used gesso, just a touch of brown, a touch of blue to kind of give it a gray tint. I'm going to put a tiny amount of yellow in it. Let's see what this looks like. Yeah, that's pretty good. This is just, I want this to just be my brightest bright spots on these stairs. Very front edge of them tends to be the brightest. That one's catching a lot of light back here. Front edge of this one. Yeah, I like it. Brighten up my bright spots down here as well. think that works. I don't do too much to it. I kind of like that like it is. Okay, so let's move down to some. I think I do want to have kind of an overhanging limb here. So for that, I'm going to get some of my green. I'm just going in here and finding some that I have. Now I want it to be a little lighter. This is going to be too dark. This is kind of my dark green color. I kind of want that limb to kind of come in right here. And so I want it to be more like that one over there. I feel a little brighter. So I'm going to kind of group a little yellow in that, kind of lighten it up, maybe just the tiniest amount of gesso. I'm not showing all the color mixing on this because it's not important. You know, what's more important is values. You got a green, you're making it out of yellow and blue, you know, toning it down with brown. And what's important is that you get some values. Light to dark, dark to light. Doesn't matter exactly which shade of green or what exact, you know, as long as you're not using a green that's just straight up green out of the tube, Kelly green, that's going to look like a cartoon, then you'll be all right. I think I want this limb coming out of here. I don't want to cover up my fence back there too much. I'm going to put a little bit of a indicator that there's a tree back here, kind of hanging a limb over here. Some bigger leaves. Just a little bit up there where my fence is. That may be a little too much, but okay, I'll pull it on out a little. Yeah, that looks more like it. And I can take my liner then with some of that dark brown, black, whatever I have, a lot of water, and even pull some, indicate some like the limbs, sticks and things in here. Just to kind of sell the fact that that's a tree sticking out. All right, I don't want to get too carried away with that. Now, that worked. I don't even think I'll dry it first. I think I'll come straight in here with some of this really bright green and maybe do some of this on the very tips of it. Just some of the, especially right out here in this dark area, that's going to look good, where it'll really show up. Really highlight a few of those leaves, limbs. There you go. That's pretty neat. Okay, I think I like everything back there. You know what? Before I move on, I don't like everything back there. I wanted to do a few yellow flowers too. Come in here with some yellow. Now, again, I want to make yellow flowers, so I want a shadow color for the yellow. What's the opposite of yellow? Or the complementary color for yellow is purple. So what I want to try to do is make a little purple with blue and magenta. And I'll use that to mix with my yellow to give me a shadow yellow. Gives me a yellow that's kind of ugly. I want some little yellow flowers in here. That little bush there, I think I want to have yellow flowers on it. And I'll have a few out here, but these are going to be in the sun, so they're going to be a lot brighter. Let's have a few, let's get a few kind of in here too. Why not? It barely shows up with that dark yellow, but that's okay. Well, let's see. While I'm in it, I'm going to do a few here too. Maybe some that are clustered here and there. Yeah, I like that. I like the idea of that. That yellow looks good on there. Okay. Maybe even a few that come out here on the steps. All right. I'm going to dry it first. All right, and now I got the light yellow with a touch of gesso in it. And let's come back and make these more serious here. Yeah, I like that. It makes it really stand out. Again, I don't want to hide all of my dark yellow ones. I want to put a few lighter ones on top of them. A few in here. Okay. Just a little here and there. Just a little here and there. Come back with some green and give some of these some stems or some base. Just a little here and there. That not be necessary, but that's all right. I lost a lot of my dark yellow. Let me put a few more of those in here in the shadow. Getting a little carried away there. Yeah. Okay. Another thing that's not really necessary, but that's kind of fun to do on this kind of thing when you're just doing random wildlife is to do like almost like a fern where you do dots in a row. Let me get a color that shows up good. This light area here. Let's see if we did a little repeating pattern of dots like that. It almost looks like a fern or something like that. Again, it don't take much of this kind of detail to make it go a long way. Something maybe like right across this dark area. These little repeating patterns are good to have. Let's try some. Sort of like that. Can't tell too much about that, but that's the idea. I've kind of got a spot developed over here now that's looks like it's floating. I'll go look with a little darker green and kind of tie some of this in. At this point, you just kind of sit back and ask yourself, where's there a hole? What does it need? Come back over here with some lighter green. I feel like those bright pink flowers are needing some green to complement them over here. Won't be everywhere, just where the light is catching this. Okay. All right. I think we're done except for the stuff in the foreground there. Oh, actually, no, one more thing. Every time I think I'm done, I got one more thing I want to do. I said I was going to highlight those rocks a little more. I'll come back to my really bright color I was using on the stairs here. And maybe just get very top of some of these brightest ones. Just the very tops. That can't get bright enough. Like every layer, every time you do a little bit of a brighter layer on some of this bright spot and do a little smaller section each time, a little bit more towards the very center, it just adds to it. Just adds that little extra bit of brightness that just pops off of there. Just the tiniest amount in the middle spot here and there. Make a big difference. And something like this, you really got to step back from it and look at it. I mean, I see a few areas where I need to define these steps a little cleaner. Over here, kind of give them a little bit of an edge, because I'll come back with my black. There's need for that to be a little straighter there. Yeah, that helped a little. Okay, all right. Let's start on this down here. Now I want to get the rocks right first. They're kind of sketched in. I think I want to take my liner. What do I do with it? Take my liner and get some of this dark, almost black. Make a little bit more here real quick. All right. And let me define these rocks a little bit better. Don't have to do all of them, but I want to do a few. The shadows between the rocks themselves. All right. Just going to clean this up a little. Let's make it right there. It's just kind of got to decide where one rock stops and another one starts. Okay. I'm going to kind of tie that to the ground there. Just going to put some dark spots under here to tie that to the ground a little bit. Okay. And on this side, it's just dark over here. I'm going to cover a lot of this up with the plant itself, but this side's a lot darker. in the corner here. Try to get some of that in there. Okay. I'm going to dry that. Okay, so we're going to have a little more prominent plant here in this area that's kind of spilling over. I'm just going to kind of draw in some of these tiny leaves that are just kind of flowing out of here. Just a slightly lighter shade of that, at least on the front here. Just little tiny leaves. Okay. As I go back this way, I'm going to go darker with them. In the shadow. Now this is up pretty close to the foreground, so it needs to be, spend a little time on it, do some detailing for it, but don't really want it to draw away from the main. It's not the main attraction of the painting. If anything, it should lead us up the stairs. I gotta quit resting my hand on here. I'm shaking the camera. With this area being a little darker, I can come back at the end and put a couple of highlights on here, and it'll really make all this look like I spent some time on it. I'm going to come back a little brighter, a little bit of white, a little bit of that bright green in there maybe. Get a lighter version of that. Let's see. Don't want it to be too light. Okay. Like these little light spots up in the dark here. I think that makes it look like it's really detailed. Okay. Put a little bit of that down here. All right, that's pretty good. All right, I think I'm gonna do my rocks down there look a little plain. They're dry, so I'm gonna just take some color, some brown on a few of them. A little white in that brown on a few spots. Just kind of dirty them up. over in the shadows, they're not going to be, I don't want to get too bright, but it wouldn't hurt to have some color over there. Just a little. Same with these. And then same thing on those. I want to get some of that black. Give a little more definition to this. The in-betweens here. And then that's really dark over there, so I don't want to do too much. I don't want to get too light over there with the greenery. Just enough to finish that off. Darker might be better. Okay. I think I may put a couple of my dark gray, a couple of my little dark gray flowers in here. Why not? I like that. What do we need? What do we need? Stairs. A little weird shape there. Seems like right here kind of looks a little weird from a distance. Looks like it doesn't come out this way far enough. Maybe that's my, maybe that's just needs a little more greenery to cover it up. Since I got this green. Yeah, that works. Yeah, that worked. Okay. Okay. I don't think I want to do too much to it. I think I like the fact that when you get close to it, it's just a mess. When you back up, it looks better. Kept my bright areas bright. That's what I wanted to do. I mean, this fence back here, I could do a lot more detail to that. It's kind of messy looking, but I like that. I want it to look kind of painterly. I want you to be able to walk up to that and say, "Huh, it looks like a kid did it," But from far away, it looks a lot better. I think I'm gonna stop right there. I think I'll just sign it and be done with it. If you want to paint along with this one, I'll have the picture and the sketch in the description, the links to those. And please let me know in the comments if you have any questions, if you have any, or if you do decide to paint it, let me know how it turns out. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll be trying to post videos every week or every couple of weeks at least. So just stay tuned. Thank you.